Lavandula. This video will not be long. I just have a quick pondering I wanted to share. Um, Over the last couple of days, I've been pondering the thought of how much is enough. And I'm not speaking like deep or anything. I'm really just talking about salary and money from work or working. How much money is enough to deal with discomfort or to deal with a toxic job? And what I mean by that, it doesn't necessarily have to mean you're being treated badly. It doesn't necessarily have to mean you have like a bad boss or anything deeply negative. And the reason I say that and give that disclaimer is because previously I've had issues where I worked in toxic environments where I had a bad boss, I was being treated badly, XYZ, but now I'm not. And I still find that I'm in a toxic job. I wrote an article back in 2022. Dang, time flies. Explaining the reasons why I left my last 3 jobs with no backup plan. And it was all because they were toxic jobs. So I give great detail on what that meant for me at the time. And now I'll have to write a new one because the job I'm in now is still toxic for me, right? You can't plant an orchid in a forest. It won't work. That's a toxic environment for that flower. I feel the same. Like the environment I'm in, the only toxic thing about this work culture is the expectation to overwork. Outside of that, it's a great place. Great salary, highest salary I've had my whole career. Great pay, great benefits, all the things. But it's still toxic for me, and it's preventing me from being happy. So anyway, I've been thinking about it because I am at the peak pay of my career, and I just recently got a raise where I'm now at that number that I used to jokingly say in the past would be the number that made things feel okay. So, like my first job right out of college, around 2017, I was making like 40K, and I was dealing with some of the same things I'm dealing with here, but with a lot more emotional strain, to be honest. And I would always like I always remember myself saying like, "Oh, how to make enough to deal with this," or like, "They don't pay me enough to do all that extra stuff," and blah blah blah. Like I always said that playfully, but truthfully a little too. And the number that I had in mind when I said that is what I'm making now, and it's driving me crazy that I actually feel worse now that I'm making that amount. And I think it has a lot to do with maybe the guilt of not allowing myself to feel bad, because I'm like, oh, I shouldn't feel bad. I'm at that number. Like, I make a lot of money. I have amazing benefits. Everything is perfect, except they just want me to work a lot. They just want me to work like 50 plus hours a week. What's the big deal? But I will say, there's a lot more to that, right? There's a lot more to what makes this job toxic for me. And I keep asking myself, well, what will be my number? Like, what will be the pay I need to get to feel like all of this is okay? Is there a number? Is there a number that can prevent mental health strain for being in an environment that's not good for you? Does it depend on the amount of discomfort? Does it depend on how long you have to deal with that discomfort? Are there any factors, or is it just no number, right? Like that, these are things I'm thinking about. And it makes me think too that, if I do make this amount and it still hurts, does making more make me feel even worse? But since that's been my trend here, is the more I make, the worse I feel. Am I gonna keep feeling worse the higher I get? I don't know. I don't think there's enough pay to staff off burnout. I just don't. I think as long as the conditions are there that will lead up to burnout, you'll still be burnt out. That sounds pretty obvious, but like I don't know. It just this is something I'm pondering because it didn't occur to me. Like I always was just like, I don't get paid enough. I don't get paid enough. That's it. That's all I thought about. And now I'm like, well, I think I do, right? Or I don't know. Like, what is enough? To give context, because I know it sounds a little weird that, okay, I'm at the peak pay of my career. I have these amazing benefits, but I'm like stuck in this toxic environment. There's a lot. There's a lot here to uncover. But I do talk about it a little bit in that article that I mentioned. I'll link it in the caption. But there's a life that I want that does not involve me working in the corporate world. And the only way to get there is to set myself up with the money I'm earning from the corporate world, or I suffer in other ways for a lot longer. And I'm right now kind of trying to figure out the best way to move with that information in mind, because at this job I am still having the mental breakdowns, the spouts of burnout where I just cannot do anything at all for days at a time. And it's getting to a point where I'm like, I don't know if this is sustainable. Like the plan that I have, I don't know if I can hold out long enough. And I may have to quit for a fourth time. I can't keep quitting jobs. Like I have to figure this out. But yeah, for context, I had to leave my last job due to an extremely, probably the most toxic environment I was in. I didn't have to leave. I could have stayed, but it was just putting such a strain on me that I couldn't even hold down food. I just had to go. It was, my health was just in at risk. And so I left. I did not have a plan. I did have a little bit of savings. It did not carry me long enough though, because by the time I started interviewing, I didn't realize how bad the job market had gotten. And the interviews for the role that I'm in right now, they include like 5-6 step interview processes. It includes like a case study and a presentation. It includes all these things. So they take a lot longer. It doesn't take 2 weeks anymore like a typical job interview process does. It's for me like at least 4 weeks. So it took a lot longer than anticipated to find a role. And once I did, you know, by that time I had other stuff that was going on that I had to like pay. And so anyway, I put myself in a crappy financial situation, and I had to live off of means that I didn't want to, aka credit cards. And so I'm climbing myself out of that hole, because not only was that the case for the last job I left, it was the case for the job before that and the job before that. So I was just carrying on a lot of weight from decisions that I've made in the past. And now I'm here working this job again, trying to, fix that and build a better future so that this next time I leave, this fourth time that I leave, will be the last. It will be the final time I ever have to do this, and I'll be well okay. So, saying all that to say, I don't think I'm gonna have to deal with this for too long, maybe 5 years max, hopefully. But that's still like every day I wake up like, can I do this for 5 more years? I don't know. But yeah, it felt important to me to say this, especially from my privileged place, because I was once that person that was like, if only I made enough. And maybe for some people that is the case. Maybe they'll make enough and it'll feel worth it to wake up and deal with, a crappy situation every day for however long they need to. And like, kudos to you. I wish I could be that person, but the burnout just drives me crazy, along with the other little things I deal with. Like, for example, the role I'm in right now, I work in fintech. So I used to work in banking, and I'm an underwriter. So when a business wants a credit card or they want a loan, I'm the one that goes through all their financial details and do this whole analysis, and I make a decision. I say yes or no. If so, how much? And it's very strenuous. It is very hard work, and it is very fast-paced work. Like, I'm expected to work at an extremely high pace and to make as many decisions in a day as possible. But these decisions are high-stake decisions. They're not very, like, I don't know. It's not okay to make small mistakes. I can misplace one comma and fuck up an entire deal and make a company lose thousands of dollars. Like, I have to be very careful, very diligent. It's like highly analytical. It's a lot. It's a very strenuous job. And in the world that I work in, beautiful corporate world, there's very high expectations, very steep metrics. And when you might have the chance to meet them, they're like, oh, wow, maybe we set them too low. Let's set them even higher. So like, you're rewarded with just a higher benchmark if you happen to meet their expectations. And me, with the trauma that I have of being expected to always perform well, outperform the rest, A+ student, blah blah blah, overachiever, all those things, it really fucked me up that I cannot meet the metrics. And when I do, they're only set higher after that. Like, it really fucked me up. And I know it from like a logical standpoint that it's just going to be like that, but it's still hard for me to deal with it. It's hard. It's hard for me to swallow that pill every day, given the background that I have with being an overachiever and everything. And so this industry has forced me to like try to do some healing around that. But anyway, back to my I actually lost my main point. My dream future does not include me working a 9-to-5 job. And so I'm trying to build the foundation necessary to eventually take the proper leap to building that type of future for myself. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. And anyone who happens to be in the data science or data analytics industry, if you're watching this, please, if you're down for this, can you please comment and let me know how your work-life balance is? Because I've been thinking about pivoting, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm nervous for pivoting. This is part of my pondering, where I know what I have to do. I have to take some more courses, do some more self-learning, do some project work, and then start trying to apply for those roles. I'm terrified of one of two scenarios. One scenario being I do all this extra work, I take the courses, I do the projects, and I make the pivot successfully, and then I still get burned out. It still feels like a toxic environment for me. Or on the flip side, I do all that work, make the proper steps to pivot, and then I still can't find a role. I'm scared of wasting time when I feel like I don't even have any to begin with. Like I work well over 40 hours a week right now consistently, and I'm expected to honestly work more, but I don't, because I'm like, if I'm burned out, I won't be able to work. So I have to prevent myself from reaching that bridge of burning out to the point where I can't do anything at all. But yeah, if you're in that industry, please let me know. But I bring that up to say, like, even if I make that pivot successfully with where I'm at right now and the skills that I have, I'll be able to make well over what I'm making now, which what I'm making now is fine. But like, will making more make me feel even worse? Like, I think part of it, I don't know if I mentioned, is that there's a lot of guilt attached to what I make and the benefits I have. Um, a lot of the guilt is like, dang, I shouldn't feel like this, right? Like, there's so many other people who will kill for, what I'm getting right now. I shouldn't feel this way. Like, it's a lot of guilt, a lot of invalidating myself. I have to I have to think about that. And yeah, it's just part of my pondering right now. It's just, what's enough? What pay is enough? What job role is enough? Because I think it's the 9 to 5 structure in general that's toxic for me. But I don't know, maybe a different role. Like, what I'm working right now is very production heavy. I'm expected to make a certain number of decisions every day, and maybe a role where it's more project based, for example. Maybe that'll feel different. I don't know. I, in my heart of hearts, feel that it's just the corporate structure that's the issue. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I ask myself this a lot, and I know some people will say that there is a number, and maybe the more pay can help you reach your goals faster. Like, of course, I'll be able to pay off debt a lot faster and save a lot more money and set up that future for myself a lot faster. So pay, like, an increase in pay does help there. But as far as, like, is there a number to keep you in the industry and help minimize the discomfort? And I don't think there is a number. Like, I don't think there is. Um, but it's just a pondering, and it's also been on my heart to say that for those people that are thinking, oh, if only I could just make more money. Like, I used to think, like, if only if I could just make more and get better benefits, I'll be fine. And I don't know, I guess I just want to challenge that thought of, is it just that, or is it the environment as a whole? Like, is it the discomfort itself that needs to be resolved and can be resolved by other means? um I don't think, if you're dealing with circumstances, getting more pay will not minimize those circumstances and the impact of them. It won't. It's just a matter of how can you get away from those circumstances, I think, is the angle I wish I would have thought from with that first job. If I could go back in time, I would tell myself in that first job, like, girl, it only gets worse. So let's figure out, like, you may get paid more, but it comes with a lot more stress. Maybe we could think about this. Maybe we could figure out if there's a better industry for you or a better path in life. Like, let's do this. And I would have prevented myself from going into so much debt. I would have prevented myself from the trauma that comes from having to leave a job with no backup plan. I truthfully think it is, like, damaging to the brain to put yourself in such an unstable state of living. And I've done that 3 times already. And I can't do that to myself again. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard to hold on and build this future for myself. But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to kind of ponder that thought. And it may sound silly to those who haven't experienced it. And I'm so sorry for the people who have. And I'm so glad that the people who haven't. Like, please, I hope you don't ever. But if you are curious, I would go on YouTube or even TikTok, but I think YouTube primarily, and just search, like, oh, I left my 6-figure job because of burnout, or like, oh, I left my high-paying job because of XYZ. Like, there's so many videos of people reaching that point in their career of making 6 figures or whatever and having these amazing benefits and everything, and realizing just how it all is. And that's when they're making the leave, not when they're in the middle or beginning of their career making 40, 50, 60K. It's usually, I'm seeing it when people reach that mark of where we think it's supposed to be okay now. We think it's supposed to be great. That's the benchmark of success. And that's when people are like, I'm quitting, I'm leaving. But yeah, there's so many interesting stories. If you're ever curious, I would do the search because I watch them a lot. I'm always very curious. I used to watch them before I got to this level. And I'm like, damn, now I get it. I didn't think that would be me, but it's definitely me, and I understand it. I just can't walk away right now. But yeah, um, I hope this was insightful. Thanks for listening to my little story time, and I hope that this changes the perspective of at least one person in a good way. Yeah. Until next time, thanks for listening.